going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is a video I've been meaning to do for a while because you guys know by now I love the Shadowland team, but kind of got caught up with work and stuff, so never really got around to it. And what's finally making me do this video is because I see a lot of people putting certain ISOs on Moon Knight that I don't really agree with, and I want to kind of cover that in this video and why I think that the common option I see for Moon Knight is actually probably the worst of the three possible options for him. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the T4s and the ISOs because there's a lot of discussion about how heavy the T4 requirement is for this team. So I'm going to come up with a list of just the bare minimum T4s that you guys need to make this team work. But before we go any further in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about Amazon coins. This is something that's been a sponsor of the channel, and this has been something I've been using for a while. The way Amazon coins work is that you basically sync your account through Facebook, and then you basically use that to buy Amazon coins for your account. And how it works is that 100 Amazon coins is equal to $1. So if you're purchasing something in the game for 99 cents, it's 99 Amazon coins. Where Amazon coins comes into play here that really makes it valuable, at least for me, is that I can buy those at a significant discount. You can see here two big purchases. 10,000 Amazon coins are the equivalent of $100. You can purchase it for $82, almost 20% off. And the same thing with 5,000 Amazon coins or $50 for $42.50. You saw there's a big section of different offers here. I can't show it because it's not pulling up right now, but you can buy as high as 50,000 Amazon coins at once. You can get a significant amount, and they're all for very significant discounts. This is something I've been using for months on the account, and I love it. It's allowed me to whale out a little bit more without breaking the bank as much. Fantastic that I love it, and definitely something that I recommend for anybody who's looking to spend on the game and trying to save that money. If you guys want to check out Amazon coins, there will be a link down below in the video description. A note for that is if you guys are going to use that Amazon coin link, it is only good for about 24 hours. So you have to go back through and purchase again. So if you guys are constantly purchasing Amazon coins, I do ask you guys use that link. Really helps the channel out, and I greatly appreciate that. So let's talk Shadowland, and this is where I am at right now with Shadowland, where I'm constantly doing this 200k punch-ups against Marauder teams, just absolutely crushing them. But it should also be noted that I have a significant amount of T4s. I have 15 T4s on this team. I've been doing some crazy things with them, but it's also giving me perspective on which T4s I shouldn't have done, which T4s I thought were good but just weren't as good. So I've been kind of getting a lot of personal experience with them. So I'm going to break this down to just the bare minimum of T4s that you guys need for Shadowlands, and we're going to go from there. So in terms of absolutely necessary T4s for this team, surprisingly, there's not that many. You need two passives. The first one's going to be on White Tiger because of this with the speed, filling the speed bar by 10% plus 5% per Shadowland ally. So 30% speed bar for Shadowland at the start of the fight. You know, a little bit additional speed bar for her. She's actually going to be killing a lot. So this one, that little speed bar on kill is very nice, but that 30% speed bar at the start of the fight, that's huge. And that is absolutely the number one T4 you're going to need on this team. It also is allowing her to give, I believe she gives offense up to herself and all Shadowland allies for 2 turns. That's great, but that speed bar boost is significant. This is a T4 you absolutely need for the Shadowland team to work. The other passive that I highly recommend is going to be on Daredevil's passive, where this gives a significant amount of speed to Shadowland and himself. So 20% speed with this once everything's going crazy here. I mean, yeah, 20% speed boost on them plus the 30% speed bar boost at the start of the fight. This team moves fast, and yeah, you guys have probably seen it in the footage. If you guys haven't seen some of my other videos of Shadowland, just what they're doing, I recommend you guys go back and check those out. But yeah, this team moves fast and it hits hard, and it's because of the two passes between Daredevil and White Tiger and just how much damage and how fast they move. Those two passives, absolutely necessary. And then we're going to go for one ultimate here on Moon Knight, and that is the ability to dispel all positive effects from enemies. And sometimes sometimes you need this, sometimes you don't, but I have found that against a team that likes to use a lot of positive effects, this is very helpful, especially if it's a team that's going to move before Shadowland, which there are some of those out there. And if you're trying to go for a team like Black Order, where they're going to have a lot of positive effects on them, this is one that I highly recommend. Ability to dispel all positive effects instead of just 3 It's very situational, but this one is absolutely one I highly recommend that you get on this team. And then finally we go over to Night Nurse, and this one is gonna be the passive for her because of the speed bar boost and the defense up whenever a Shadowland ally drops below 50% health. This is very helpful, especially when you're fighting certain teams that have a lot of damage output, like say Black Order. Now, this is also very good for other teams as well. I've had this trigger quite a few times against Marauder teams, though those are massive punch-ups. So if you're trying to go for a punch across, this one starts to lose a little bit of power because you're not going to see it trigger as often. This one's still very important. And then her ultimate, because without this, it's a 4-turn cooldown. Yeah, you kind of want this as quickly as possible, especially for a team that's going to throw out a lot of positive effects right away. Like, again, Black Order, or say Marauders. If you can't get ability block on Emma and she's able to dispel and then she puts speed down on your team, you can flip that into speed up. That's pretty significant for this team, and I really love that. So the ultimate and passive, that's 5 T4s. Those are 5 you can get away with. Those are 5 you can invest on this team and basically get the bare minimum out of this team. Now, you can start investing more as the team goes on, and you can start punching way up. And I'd have to say, even you could probably get away without investing in the passive for Night Nurse, though that one does come out pretty often, is very helpful. You can still definitely get away without investing that. So it's not a team you have to sink a lot of T4s into. That's been one of the big complaints I see from players. You can absolutely get away with only 4, maybe even 5 T4s on this team. It's not as bad as you would think. So it's not a heavy, crazy requirement on T4s. But if you want to start investing a lot of T4s in this team, well, then you're really going to start doing things like I showed just before, 200k punch up on Marauders. Now, in terms of other T4s, you can see I sunk everything into White Tiger. The Stalking Slash, I've seen people talk about this one and whether or not it's required or not. And shout out to Reminex for this one, because Reminex did the testing with it and found that against a boosted team, which has, 3 stacks of deflect on it, this will actually get through, because the way the mechanics on this special work, it does the attack, it does the main attack once and then the bonus attack twice with a T4, and then it applies the negative effects afterwards. What that means is that you clear the 3 deflects because of the boost, and then the negative effects are applied after. And this means that you don't have to have this T4 in order to actually worry about boost. You can still manage this attack just fine without the T4. Now, granted, it does a massive amount of damage with the T4 on here, but you by no means need it to make the mechanics work. And that is why I'm not calling it required T4. Required T4s are ones where you have to invest in it for the team to actually work. This is not one you have to do that for. Much like how you don't need the basic here, but I have it because of defense down for 2 turns and a pretty significant damage boost for this as well. Defense down for 2 turns, especially since she's a striker and she's going to be doing this assist attack quite a bit. This is a very, very helpful one, because that defense down for 2 turns means I can reliably keep it on that enemy character, even if that character is about to move right after White Tiger. Now they can't. Now they still have defense down on them for another turn afterwards. Throw the Fight is another one, completely optional. Huge damage boost here. Clears all negative effects from herself. Heals herself for 50% of her max health. 600% damage with this T4. Again, very, very helpful T4. Does not need to be T4'd in order to make the ability work. These are just luxury T4s I've dumped on. And in fact, if there's any other T4 you're going to sink on White Tiger, it's obviously going to be the special, because it does so much damage. The other ones are purely luxury. Night Nurse, I did the special on her because that's where I get the clearing 3 negative effects from the most injured ally and all adjacent allies. Without this, you don't really get that cleansing effect, but you don't have to have it. This is not a big one that's absolutely necessary. I've used it sometimes when I'm fighting that 200k punch up against Marauders. I used it, and it was just to clear like a heal block. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was something I was still going to be able to clear pretty quickly anyways, because her passive was going off and she was gaining a lot of speed bar there. This basic on her, this is one that I would basically say was a mistake. I misread it, and this is one that if I could, I would take it back. I definitely don't need this T4. This is one I could have invested in other teams. It goes from flipping 1 positive effect to flipping 2 positive effects. Not that big of a deal. Definitely one I could have avoided doing on Night Nurse. For Electra, I did her passive. On spawn, apply evade and stealth to all adjacent Shadowland and hand allies. Don't really need this one. Thought it was going to be good. Turned out didn't really do much because the team just moves so quickly that this evade and stealth just basically goes away. So there was no point in investing in this T4. This was a waste of a T4. This is one I definitely wouldn't do if you're trying to use her with a Shadowland team. Now, in case we get a hand rework in the future and Electra works well in a hand team, you may be able to get something there out of it. But with this is just useless for Shadowland. You don't really need it. The one T4 I do see people drop on her, and this is one I can recommend, but by no means required, is allowing her to apply Disrupt for 2 turns in War. I have found that just the 1-turn Disrupt is more than sufficient for preventing Strife from taunting on the enemy team, because by the time Strife is able to taunt, you've already knocked Emma down below half health, so now he doesn't, even his auto taunt's not going to work. He goes to taunt on his main ability, there's no point. So this is one that I have gotten by without the T4 at all. Definitely not one you have to invest in. Does have some good damage, 600% damage plus 20% piercing if you apply that T4, but you're usually going to a target that's got defense up or boost, so maybe even both. So there's really, that damage boost doesn't really do much here. That Disrupted is good, and the extra focus has helped make sure that she can really reliably land this, but again, you don't really need that T4. Her special, it's not really good. You don't really need it. And her basic, again, don't really need that one. I would definitely pass on both of those. Moon Knight, this passive, the 20% max health from self and Shadowland allies, if you are doing a ginormous punch up against a team with a lot of offensive power, this one is very, very good. But if you are not, I mean, this one's just kind of it's kind of there. I've done it because of the massive punch-ups I'm doing with the team and how it helps kind of give you a little bit more of a cushion and give them a little bit more health. It kind of gets scary from time to time, especially against Doc Ock teams. Without this passive, it would be a lot closer. So there is some power to getting this T4 if you're trying to do those massive punch-ups, and especially against a team with a lot of strong offensive power. But this is pretty much an optional one. You can get by without that one. Night Guardian, this is a T4 that I really wish I had taken back. Without it, he's only rebounding chain to 2 to 4 adjacent targets. It's not a big deal. It goes to 3 to 5 bonus damage, but this is one I don't really like. So I would probably take this T4 back if I could. But I mean, at the end of the day, Shadowland's kicking butt. So it's not one that I really hate that I invested in, but it's one that I acknowledge I could have invested elsewhere in other teams. Lunar Strike, I love this one, and we're going to talk about the ISOs here in a minute, and this basically determines one of my preferred ISO classes for him because of this applying of random positive effect to himself for 2 turns. I really love that. We're going to talk about that with ISOs here in a moment. And then finally, Daredevil. We covered the passive already. Throw Baton is the only other T4 I would ever do on Daredevil right now because it applies the counter to Shadowland allies. This is very helpful for a team that's going to have a lot of AoE attacks like Doc Ock. You pop this first turn, everybody on your team gets counter, and then the Doc Ock teams have a lot of AoE, and then they basically just get nuked from orbit because the Shadowland team just counters everything and just destroys the team. Fantastic, but the other two you definitely don't need. This is a guaranteed bonus attack, which, okay, but by no means necessary. And Brawl, it gives you some more damage and more chaining, but again, you can totally get by without this one. This is one that cannot be blocked, so it's going to be landed guaranteed crits. So I like what it does right now. I definitely don't need the T4 on him. So moving on from that, let's talk ISO classes, and let's start with Moon Knight. This is the one I want to focus on. Moon Knight. I see a lot of people put Raider on Moon Knight, and I'm going to tell you right now, with having moved between Raider, Striker, and Skirmisher, Raider is by far the weakest of the ISO classes that I've seen on Moon Knight, at least for me personally. I talked to Wolverthor about it last night as well. I kind of convinced him around to my train of thought on this too. What I have on him is level 5 Skirmisher. Now, the reason I have Skirmisher on him right now is because that level 5 boost with the 50% focus, at tier 12, I'm able to reliably dispel positive effects from tier 15 Marauders with that focus boost, plus the offense up, plus the boosted focus passive from Electra. With that and the Skirmisher level 5 boost here, he's very reliably dispelling positive effects. If I took him with the tier 14, I would switch away from Skirmisher probably, because I don't need that Skirmisher boost. I don't need that focus boost as much anymore. But right now with tier 12 on him, I can keep him at a low tier level, a low gear level, focus my gear on other characters I think are more important, like Silver Surfer or Doom, and I can pretty much put him off to the side, focus on him later, and then change it. And honestly, this is one of the things I've said that I love about Shadowland, is that I can keep most of this team at tier 12 and just wipe the floor with teams. Now, I've taken Night Nurse up because I'm using her for the skill nodes in the Doom raid, but otherwise I'd be leaving her at tier 12, and the only one I've taken up is White Tiger. So if you're not going to use Skirmisher, the other one I highly recommend is Striker, and I recommend Striker because of that basic attack, where if he attacks a vulnerable target, he then does the bonus ISO attack, where now he applies a positive effect for 2 turns. And there's 3 options here you can give himself: counter, offense up, and speed up. And the 2 that you really want to aim for are counter and offense up. The offense up boosts his damage by 50%, but also due to his passive, he also gains another 50% damage in war while he has counter. So if you use his basic against a target that's got vulnerable with the striker buff, or with the striker class on him, maybe if you're lucky, you'll give yourself counter and offense up, and now you've pretty much given him a 100% boost to damage for the next 2 turns. And that, I think, is huge. And I know a lot of people don't do this. I know a lot of people like to go for Raider. The problem with why I don't like Raider is because you have the guaranteed crits on negative effects against enemies with negative effects with the special. But this is a 5-turn cooldown. I mean, you're not going to use this very often. I've only used it maximum of once in a battle. The battles are over so quickly, you're never going to get this off a second time. So this is, I see why people do Raider for this, and I agree it's a good one because of this. But Striker and Skirmisher, in my opinions, are far, far better ISO classes for Moon Knight, because you're just going to get a lot more return out of them. I mean, you have several characters on your team who are going to apply vulnerable already. Elektra's going to apply it every turn. Daredevil has very high crit chance, and he's guaranteed a crit on his first two turns because he has offense up. So if you can keep offense up on Daredevil and you keep him going with the chain attacks and everything else, he's going to land a lot of vulnerable around, and it's going to be more than White Tiger can manipulate. So yeah, Moon Knight, I like Skirmisher on him at low gear tiers. Once he's up at tier 14, I'll switch him to Striker, get some massive use out of him. Daredevil, only thing you need to go for him is Raider. Again, we already mentioned this, 25% crit chance for each Shadowland ally while he has offense up. He's going to have a very high crit chance. He's going to be critting a lot. His ultimate can't be blocked. I love that. He's definitely Raider. Skirmisher for Elektra, if you go up to tier 5 on her, you're going to get a huge boost to her focus here, and then that's going to help with the Vital Strike. And you can also use it for here with the Dispel, but honestly, Skirmisher is the way to go for her. Healer for Night Nurse, because she's constantly healing. She's able to heal on her turns, the most injured Shadowland ally, 15% of this character's max health. She's just a healer, so healer ISO class on her. And then finally, Striker on White Tiger, because with that, she's able to apply defense down slow for 2 turns on a counterattack or assist, which is what an ISO attack is. Otherwise, she'd be applying heal block, but she applies heal block through her other abilities. Her special is able to apply heal block, and I believe her ultimate as well also applies heal block. So no matter which attack you use on a vulnerable character, basic's going to apply the heal block, her special is going to apply heal block, ultimate's going to apply heal block. She follows up with that bonus attack, which then will also put defense down and speed down for 2 turns. So yeah, Striker I think is the easy option for her. Plus, she's got an incredible damage stat. 5'7", tier 14, almost tier 15. She's going to be pushing 30,000 damage once I'm finished gearing her up. This is an incredible amount of damage on her. And yeah, this is why I can do those 200k punch-ups, is because I've sunk gear on the White Tiger. You can leave the rest of tier 12, put White Tiger up to tier 14. You're going to punch up all day and just massively dominate with this team. So that is my video talking about ISOs and T4s. I want to do this because I want to kind of give you, kind of correct what I see a lot of people do with ISOs for Moon Knight, and why I very much disagree with the Raider ISO for him, and why I think there's better options for him. So let me know down below, what do you guys think about this? Do you guys agree with this? Do you guys disagree? Let me know down below. But as always, if you guys have enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. I will see you guys next time.